Consider the pathogen, an invisible agent of chaos. It enters a healthy, complex system, a living body, with a single, terrifying purpose: to replicate. It hijacks the body's own cells, turning them into factories for its own code. It subverts the immune system, tricking it into attacking itself. The body, in its intricate wisdom, is systematically turned into an engine for its own destruction. This is the logic of a virus. It is precise, methodical, and relentless. Now, what if the most virulent pathogen known to humanity does not attack our cells, but our consciousness? What if its medium of transmission is not air or water, but language and narrative? What if the disease it causes is not a fever of the body, but a sickness of empathy, a necrosis of the soul? This is not a metaphor. It is a diagnosis. The phenomenon of genocide, in all its horror, follows a terrifyingly predictable pathology. It is a social contagion, a virus of the mind that has erupted throughout human history with the same clinical stages, time and time again. Today in the lab, we conduct an autopsy. We will not be examining the political or historical symptoms alone, but the underlying psychological mechanisms that allow this virus to take root and flourish. We will trace its progression from its initial, almost undetectable incubation to its fever pitch of extermination, and finally to its insidious final mutation: denial. This exploration is not for shock, it is for understanding, because only by diagnosing a disease can we ever hope to find a cure. Section 1. Incubation, us versus them binary. Every virus begins by simplifying. It must first teach the complex host body a new, fatally simple language: self and other. This is the incubation period, where the pathogen silently rewrites the system's most basic code. This process begins with classification. It is the first, almost trivial-seeming symptom. Our brains are natural categorizers. It is a cognitive shortcut we use to make sense of a complex world. We build mental boxes for everything. The virus does not invent this instinct, it hijacks it. It finds pre-existing lines of division in a society, ethnicity, religion, nationality, and begins to sharpen them, to deepen them, turning gentle slopes into impassable canyons. The fluid spectrum of human identity is forced into a rigid binary code. You are either us or you are them. Once the categories are set, the virus needs a way to tag the other so the system can identify it. This is symbolization. Names are assigned, stereotypes are amplified. In Nazi Germany, it was the yellow star of David. In Cambodia, the blue and white checkered scarf of the Khmer Rouge signified the pure people, while city dwellers and intellectuals were marked for death. These symbols are not merely identifiers. They are visual triggers for the social immune system. They are a way for the virus to scream, "This cell is foreign. This cell is a threat. This cell does not belong." The US is defined as the pure, healthy tissue. The them is defined as the pathogen to be isolated. At this stage, the disease is still mostly asymptomatic to the outside world, but inside, the fundamental architecture of the society is being dangerously rewired. The first symptom of a dying society is the simplification of its people. Section 2. Onset. The erosion of empathy. Now, the virus begins its active assault. It must weaken the host's natural defenses, chief among them empathy. The onset of the disease begins with discrimination. The dominant group, now firmly established as us, begins to use the machinery of law and power to systematically strip the rights of the them. The legal code of the society itself is infected. New laws are passed that prevent the targeted group from voting, from owning property, from working certain jobs, from living in certain areas. This is not just social bullying, it is the creation of a legal and bureaucratic framework that legitimizes persecution. It provides the system with a permission structure to treat one group as less than the other. The societal body is being conditioned to accept the premise that not all of its parts are of equal value. This prepares the ground for the most psychologically critical stage of all, dehumanization. This is the master stroke of the virus. To convince a human being to commit mass violence against another, you must first convince them that their victim is not human at all. The empathy circuits in our brain must be shut down. This is achieved through a relentless campaign of propaganda. The targeted group is no longer described in human terms. They are referred to as animals, vermin, rats, cockroaches. They are called a disease, a cancer, a plague that must be cleansed. This language is not accidental. It is a precise neurological weapon. Neuroscience shows that when we see someone as a member of our in-group, the medial prefrontal cortex, a key region for empathy and understanding others' perspectives, lights up. When we are conditioned to see someone as a disgusting object or a pest, this region goes dark. Empathy is not an abstract concept. It is a measurable brain function. Dehumanization is the act of deliberately flipping that switch to off. To kill a person is a monstrous act. To cleanse a disease is merely sanitation. Section 3. Fever, the mechanics of hate. The disease is now systemic. The fever is rising. The virus begins to build its own dedicated machinery of destruction. This is organization. The violence is no longer left to random mobs. It becomes organized. The state itself may sponsor and train special militias or death squads, the SS in Germany, the Interahamwe in Rwanda. They are the virus's killer T-cells, trained, armed, and given a clear mandate. The genocide is transformed from a possibility into a meticulously planned project, complete with logistics, chains of command, and bureaucratic efficiency. To support this new machinery, the virus must ensure the rest of the social body does not interfere. It achieves this through polarization. Extremists dominate the public discourse. They broadcast propaganda that further demonizes the target group. All media is brought under control. The message is simple and absolute. You are with us, or you are with the enemy. There is no middle ground. Moderates, intellectuals, or anyone who calls for peace and reconciliation are targeted, silenced, or eliminated. They are seen as traitors, as collaborators with the disease. This stage is designed to obliterate the political and social center, to make rational discourse impossible. It creates an echo chamber of hate, where the only permissible thought is allegiance to the extremist cause. With the machinery built and the opposition silenced, the final logistical steps are taken. This is preparation. Lists of victims are drawn up. Their property is marked for confiscation. The infrastructure of death is finalized. Transportation routes are planned. Concentration camps are built. Gas chambers are disguised as showers. The perpetrators are given their final orders. The language becomes euphemistic. They speak of deportation, resettlement, cleansing. This is the point of no return. The social body is now fully in the grip of the fever, preparing to commit an act of mass, organized self-destruction. The first casualty in this war is not the enemy. It is the moderate. Section 4. Terminal, the annihilation of reality. The final stages are the terminal manifestation of the disease. Persecution sees the victims physically identified and separated from the population. They are forced from their homes, herded into ghettos, or transported to camps. Their final connection to their own humanity, their homes, their communities, their possessions, is severed. They are isolated, starved, and terrorized. This physical separation is the final step in the psychological separation that began with classification. Then comes extermination. The mass killing begins. It is called extermination by the perpetrators precisely because they have been so thoroughly conditioned by the dehumanization stage that they no longer view their victims as human. The act is carried out not always with frenzied rage, but often with the cold, detached efficiency of a bureaucratic task. It is the logical endpoint of the virus's pathology. The complete annihilation of the group identified as the pathogen. But the virus has one final, insidious mutation, a stage that ensures its own survival for future generations. This is denial. It is the last stage of a genocide and the first stage of the next one. The perpetrators, faced with their crimes, work to erase them. They dig up mass graves, burn the bodies, destroy the evidence. They intimidate or kill witnesses. They systematically deny that the genocide ever happened. They will claim the deaths were exaggerated, or that they were a result of civil war, or even that the victims brought it upon themselves. Denial is a direct assault on reality itself. It is a form of collective, state-sponsored false memory designed to corrupt the historical record and absolve the perpetrators of their sins, leaving the virus dormant but alive, waiting for the right conditions to emerge once more. Denial is not just the last stage of genocide, it is the first stage of the next one. Section 5. Conclusion. The antidote. We have conducted our autopsy. We have traced the pathology of this virus of the mind from its quiet beginnings to its horrific conclusion. To leave it here would be an act of despair, but the purpose of a diagnosis is to find a cure. So, what is the antidote? The antidote is the precise and deliberate opposite of each stage. If the virus begins with classification, the antidote is to relentlessly promote a universal sense of us, to celebrate our shared humanity above our superficial differences. If it relies on symbolization, the antidote is to reject the symbols of hate, to refuse to allow our fellow humans to be marked and tagged as other. If it thrives on discrimination and dehumanization, the antidote is the legal and moral protection of the rights of all people and the conscious cultivation of empathy, the refusal to allow our empathy circuits to be switched off. The antidote to polarization is the fierce protection of the moderate middle, of free speech, and of leaders who seek to unite rather than divide. The antidote to denial is the tireless work of historians, journalists, and survivors, the meticulous preservation of evidence, the telling of stories, the building of memorials. The antidote is memory, a true, unflinching, and collective memory. The virus of hate thrives in the darkness of ignorance and the soil of lies. The only things that can kill it are the disinfecting light of truth and a stubborn, unwavering belief in the value of every human life. This is not a political hope. It is a psychological and biological necessity for the survival of our species. The memory of the past is the immune system of the future. Until next time, stay curious.